Sunday school. As you know, it's my favorite show of the week. So we continue to give you nothing but positive vibes and positive energy. And of course, give you a little history and talk to our friends from New Species about how these formulas, raw, natural, and organic, is helping thousands and thousands. I think we should be in the millions by now. Hey, Austin, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I think it's safe to say we're in the millions now, Austin.
I agree.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say. I mean, worldwide, we got to be in the millions of people that you've helped with high blood pressure, with their diabetes, with their urine frequency, urine urgency, prostate issues, dense breast. Of course, those that are diabetic, those with cancer, those that, and you know, we also have to touch on those that I've really and truly, Austin, waited until it's late and really just wanting more time, something that we all wish we could get back. Time is something that you can't put in the bank and take out a little later. So what you need to do is do what you can when you can to preserve that body. So lack of you being hit by a truck or something like that, Austin, you live as long as you can.
Right, and that's the number one mistake that I have seen people make with their health. They have the symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
they have the pain and suffering,
Yeah.
and they do nothing or they don't do enough. And then the conditions get worse.
Mm-hmm.
Other organs get damaged, and now the doctors are telling them you have cancer, you have blood pressure, you have diabetes, you have kidney failure.
Mm-hmm.
And is when they get to the chronic stage, a lot of these people start a fight. And at that stage, it's too late. It's too late for a lot of people. I must say to you all, the people I see who die the most, especially young, are people who waited until it was too long.
Mm-hmm.
They procrastinated or they just didn't do enough. And on the other hand, DJ, the reverse is true. The people who have done the best are the people who work the hardest with their health, the people who
Mm-hmm.
fight back,
Uh-huh.
knowing that chronic disease is a war against their life, not just their
Yes.
health. And those are the people who fight that war, not battle, fight the war to win the war. Those people get better and they also live longer.
All right. All right, people. Challenge I'm gonna tell them. What did you do this morning? Did you do a little exercise? Did you do a little exercise this morning? I kind of woke up late because I was hanging out late last night, but I still got in 45 minutes.
That's great.
Dedication.
That's great.
Dedication.
That's
Yeah.
great. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, indeed. So, Austin, history. What do we do for a segment? History? Do we stay with a little health? Talk to me.
Well, we're going to do some history this hour, and we're going to go back to the beginning. DJ Roy, New
Okay.
Species was built on the foundation that knowledge is power.
Mm.
All week, New Species provides knowledge about nourishing the physical health with
Okay.
nutrition. Monday School
Mm-hmm.
is dedicated to all your spiritual and mental health having
Mm-hmm.
a particular significance for the black community worldwide. So let's call it out. Let's call it what it
Okay.
is. From what wasn't written in the history books
Mm-hmm.
to what is written in the Bible, a great source of history.
Right.
Monday School seeks to nourish your spirit by revealing the incredible accomplishments of humankind's ancient African ancestors that haven't been written into the history of the world, and to protect your mind and spirit from the oppression that's built into what has been written. That's going to be the focus of Monday School, DJ Roy, nourishing the mental and spiritual health
Right.
with knowledge, just as how new species nutrition nourishes the body, so the body can fix itself. The body on its own can cure itself of
Right.
chronic diseases. So yes, people, I'm saying that the mental harm, the spiritual harm, is a disease that needs to be fixed. And that's what we're going to use knowledge to do on Monday School Teacher Way. What do you think about that, sir?
Listen, I'll send you. Have been doing an amazing job with. I won't even call it a job. Let me rewind that because I think you see it as an obligation. You see it as a duty to try to educate and inform. So what we've been doing for probably about 2.5 years now, we've been doing this particular programming where you've added history to it, especially during the COVID. Food for the brain, Austin. Food for the brain.
Well, thank you, sir. So I have talked to a lot of people, DJ Roy, over the past year and 8 months or so. We have been doing Monday School, their whole education of human history and natural history, African history. And I've heard from the young and the old, and excuse me, those in your 80s and 90s to use the word old. You're young. I know you're young in spirit and you're young in your mind, but the feedback, the jury, is that it's been helpful for them spiritually. So when we call things out, we're not condemning anyone. We're just trying to let the world out there that, or that part of the world out there know that there are a lot of people out there who are suffering from, mental and spiritual harms. And I am as well. So when we talk about the genocides of our ancestors from Cush and Kemet, followed by the genocides and the mental trauma of slavery and colonialism,
Right.
and the harm it caused mentally and spiritual, the pain and suffering it caused, we're not trying to condemn anyone. We're just saying that we are suffering and we need to cure that suffering with knowledge. We at New Species believe that we can cure this suffering, with knowledge of history, because, we are, from talking to all these people, DJ Roy, we're cut off to a large extent because we're so dispersed. We're cut off from the lifeblood and lifeline of our ancestors, of our cultural heritage. And, the young people I'm talking to, the older people I'm talking to, this is the feedback I'm getting from them. And unfortunately for those who don't know, and I know a lot of people don't know because every group and every culture just think about themselves, and that's the way the world is. Maybe there's nothing wrong with that. But we want everyone to know that for 2,500 years, since those genocides started in Cush and Kemet that led up to slavery, colonialism, a lot of harm was caused, and people are still suffering to this day. So what I want to say to people today, DJ Roy, is that we should stop crucifying ourselves. Let's stop that, our own crucifixion. Let's stop it by using what we now know of our ancestral history and cultural heritage to nourish our spiritual and mental health. Our souls need foods and nourishments, DJ Roy, just as how New Species nourishes, our bodies, so our body can cure itself of chronic diseases. So that's where we're going to start today, DJ Roy, and we're going to take it back to, just a little bit of feedback on early human history. I would like all of you to research Lewis and Mary Leakey. They're the ones who found the first human remains in the Torgen Hills of Kenya and Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania. You all should research that. Please research it. And I just want to say to these people, thank you for releasing this knowledge, because you could have hidden it like a lot of anthropologists and paleoanthropologists have done and still do today. They hide a lot of this knowledge. So you all should research Mary and Lewis Leakey. So DJ Roy, this is where it begins. the the early basis of knowledge that we now know today that can help our mental and spiritual health, it's at Adam's calendar, a civilization that actually existed about 75,000 years ago. And I know a lot of you are saying, what is Aston talking about? Well, it's not in the history books, but a lot of people know about it. And that's why we're talking about what's not in the history books.
Right.
What's in the history books, you can go to the bookstore and buy the history book and read it, but we're going to tell you what's not in the history books. And we're going to tell you also, things that have been written that are oppressive to people, that you all need the truth to fix your spirit, to fix your mental state. And that's what we're doing on Monday School. So DJ, just as how Africa is known as the cradle of mankind, Africa is also the cradle of spirituality and God worship. All the evidence that we have seen so far show that God worship and spirituality was first discovered in Africa. So I am not saying now, DJ, that's where it began. I don't know where it began. I don't have all the knowledge, but all the evidence that historians and anthropologists and paleoanthropologists are finding, that's where it is. And Adam's calendar is one of those first places that we see it very clearly. So, DJ, what is Adam's calendar? Adam's calendar is a circle. It's literally a calendar, but it's a circle of megalith. Some stones that are called dolerites, monuments, that are aligned with the cardinal points north, south, east, west. And what does all this mean, people? What it means is that it's aligned with the equinoxes and the solstice. Those of you who have heard of that, at some point down the road, we can explain what that is. But Adam's calendar, DJ, is the world's first calendar that tracks the movement of the sun, and it still works perfectly as a calendar. To this day, DJ, it still works as a calendar. Now, let me give you a little bit more details, people. Adam's calendar tracks the days, the weeks, the months, and the years. And this calendar also is the world's first clock, people. Yes, 75,000 years ago. Can you believe that, people? And this is how it tracks. It tracks time. So the sun, DJ, when it rises in the east and sets in the west, the taller megalith in the calendar cast shadows on the shadow ones, allowing the tracking of the sun by the minute and by the hour. And it does that today, DJ. It does that today. And by the nature of that, it is the first clock known to mankind. So it's a calendar that tracks the days, it tracks the weeks, it tracks the year. And the reason why we believe that these ancient, this ancient civilization, why they did that was because they would have the global climate change, and they need to know, about when the monsoon rains would come and wash away their, whatever their crops were. So that's one of the significance of the Adams calendar. So now the question that has been asked: how people know how old it really is? How do we know that? And this is how scientists have figured it out, DJ Roy. 75,000 years, a long time ago. But yes, there was a civilization then. So the age of the calendar is determined, DJ Roy, by the rise of the Orion constellation. It's three bright stars called Rigel, Betelgeuse, and Bellatrix. You all should research that. And these are aligned to the megalith stones in the calendar. So when they're lined up, the last time they were lined up was about 70 to 75,000 years ago. Scientists are able to track that. The other way they're able to know the age of the calendar is that they look at the erosion of the dolerite megalith. They were able to look at the erosion rate year to year, thousand year to thousand year. And astronomer Bill Hollenbach, you all should research him, suggested the age could even be longer than that. And he's using the Earth bobble, DJ Roy, when it rotates. Something
No.
happened. I think it got hit. Long before that, it got hit by something, probably an asteroid. So the Earth doesn't orbit evenly; it bounces.
Okay.
So that's another way they're able to tell that this calendar is at least 75,000 years. So what does it have to do with anything, DJ Roy? The Africans knew or thought that God lived in the heavens. And that's why they were studying these stars in the Orion constellation. I mentioned the Regal star, the Betelgeuse, the Bellatrix. So this is the first use of the word heaven and God, meaning God is up there in heaven. That is how critical this is. Because to this day, all religions say that God is up there in heaven, DJ Roy. So when we come back, sir, we're going to get more into Adam's calendar and how a lot of what is there still exists today in science, in astronomy, in physics, and in worship, in God worship. We're going to talk more about that when we come back, sir.
All right.
Now,
Keep it up.
in the meantime, DJ Roy, we're streaming live on our website. Those of you who
Okay.
want to continue, so we're not going to take a break on our website. We're going to take a break here with DJ Roy, but not on our website. So those of you who want to continue with some of the content, you can go to newspecies.com and newspecies.com, and then when we come back with DJ Roy, we're going to continue on Adam's calendar.
All right. All right. Keep it locked. By the way, download that New Species app. Stay connected. Call, get on your starter packages, 888-548-3150, 888-548-3150. Heard Austin is continuing on, of course, his website and the app. And I'm going to take a short break and rejoin Austin in just a few. Austin, we'll check in back with you in just a few.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it, sir. Thank you.
All right. There you have it. That's Austin from New Species. And like I said, the team standing by as we speak.
Civilization did not begin 3,000 years ago, my friends. Civilization began about 75,000 years ago by the early Alkebulians, or the early Africans, or the very early Kushites in southern Africa. Civilization did not begin with the ancient Greeks. Civilization did not begin with the ancient Romans. Civilization began with the early Kushites, who migrated from southern Africa via the Khoisans, or the Khoikhoi, and the Bantu to northern Africa. Now, the Blombos Caves in southern Alkebulan have some of the most extraordinary pieces of arts that were made over 70,000 years ago. But we're not here to talk about the Blombos Caves. We're here to talk about Adam's calendar in southern Alkebulan. The Adam's calendar was built at least 75,000 years ago. Some believe that it was built as early as 130,000 years ago. But let's stick with 75,000 years ago. The early Kushites who built the Adam's calendar, they used granite, dolomite, and hornfels. These are special stones that have certain electromagnetic components. And this is very critical to what the early Kushites were trying to accomplish or had accomplished. Those stones were protruding from the ground, but those stones, because they're electromagnetic in nature, because of their components, because of their chemistry, those stones were connected with the magnetic energy or the magnetic force or the electromagnetic force from the core of the earth, as well as the other minerals that carry that force from the core of the earth to the surface of the earth, where these dolomites and granite, they also created a force field that was also connecting with the Orion constellation and likely other galaxies. We don't know the full extent of what the early Kushites were doing over 75,000 years ago, but we know this. Those megaliths, they are perfectly aligned with the brightest stars in the Orion constellation. And those megaliths, they have electromagnetic forces connecting into the earth and connecting above the earth with other electromagnetic forces, which could be the photon physics, or it could be other electromagnetic forces related to gravity. Now, we're going to talk about that because it is very important to understand what these early human ancestors accomplished and how this knowledge migrated to the Kushites in northern Africa, as well as to the Egyptians who were Kushites. Let's talk about Adam's calendar and just think for a moment about the degree of knowledge that would be required to accomplish what I just said 75,000 years ago. Imagine the knowledge, exceptional inventions in spherical trigonometry, in geometry, and other mathematical forms that would be required 75,000 years ago, at least, to align these electromagnetic megaliths with the Orion constellation perfectly. Perfect alignment. Imagine. Now, this Adam's calendar can today be used as a real calendar to predict rainstorms, to tell the season of the year, to tell the time of the year by month, week, day, and even the precise time any given day. Yes, the Adam's calendar circle can do that today, as it had done over 75,000 years ago. Now, again, imagine the knowledge in particle physics, wave frequency physics, or electricity and magnetism, quantum physics, other multivariable calculus, other mathematical methods in physics, statistics. We don't know that the Kushites were calling this quantum physics or quantum mechanics or electromagnetic force 75,000 years ago. But we know that what they have accomplished. These modern names, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, wave frequencies, photon physics. We know that all these names that we use today in physics and chemistry could easily have been used 75,000 years ago. Now, we will talk about this a whole lot more, Adam's calendar, and the astronomical signs, or the signs in astronomy and astrology that they develop 75,000 years ago. We will talk about that because this also has everything to do with Kushite spirituality. Let's go further north up to Naphtali. While Adam's calendar was built over 75,000 years ago and is perfectly aligned with the Orion constellation that is over 1,300 light years away from here, from Earth, over 1,300 light years away from.
So you all get ready for that, okay? Now, with that said, let's see if we can rejoin Austin for part two. Austin, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So continue for you left off.
Adam's calendar, DJ Roy. Adam's calendar.
Okay.
Adam's calendar. What has the ancient civilization that built Adam's calendar given to the world today? Mm-hmm. We're talking about 75,000 years ago.
Okay.
That ancient civilization in southern Africa, that's where it's located, DJ Roy. It's located in southern Africa. Mm-hmm. And just so people know, it is located by the largest gold mine on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. The largest gold mine currently on planet Earth. Right. That's where Adam's calendar is located. And that whole area, DJ Roy, has a massive amount of other minerals that are being mined, within a number of square miles. So 75,000 years ago, these ancient people in southern Africa must have known something was in the earth, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So what has these ancient people given to the world today? And by the way, people, those of you who are keeping up with 75,000 years ago, this is at least 70,000 years before Cush and Kemet.
Okay.
That's how far in the future Cush and Kemet were. Mm-hmm. They came about 70,000 years later, DJ Roy.
Okay.
So you all got to put that in perspective. And yes, this has been left out of the history books. So what has the ancient people who built Adam's calendar given to the world today? Astronomy is one of the first things, DJ Roy. The study and observing of the stars. Because these people believe that God is up there in heaven. This is the evidence of they studying the stars and observing the stars of God worship, because what we see later written in the ancient texts of the African was that this same area, the Orion constellation, DJ Roy, is where the Africans believe that God is. That's where heaven is. And a lot of religions around the world, probably all religions around the world, have used that concept as well, that God is up there in heaven.
Right.
So the other aspects, DJ Roy, of Adam's calendar is mathematics. Yes, mathematics was discovered. The first place on earth it was discovered is in Congo, the Ishango bone. Those of you who go back and research it, the Ishango bone in Congo, where they have mathematical calculations written on it. And I think that the Shango bone is the original is in the Belgium Museum. Forgive me, but I know it's somewhere in that region of the world. It's not in Africa. So Adam's calendar also gave the world geometry. Geometry, people. Yes, geometry. So let's talk about that. So, DJ Roy, scientists are able to detect sound frequencies in the rock formations coming from within the earth. And they use certain devices to detect the acoustic properties in the circle of the calendar. Just all you think of the calendar like a watch or a clock. That's what it is. It's a clock or a watch. Uh, and the scientists are able, DJ Roy, to detect certain electrical impulses or electricity within the calendar, within those megalith. And when they put those frequencies on their computers or devices, what they see, DJ Roy, are mathematical forms in geometry. They see geometrical figures. And that was astonishing for them because a lot of those geometrical figures, they reflect the nature of Earth and nature itself. We're going to get more into that, maybe not this week, but we're going to get more into that. But what's important about that, people, is that the mathematics the geometry that they discovered, DJ Roy, they're able to associate it with what's called today sacred geometry. Sacred geometry, which include the triangle and the circle and the square. So this ancient civilization was fully aware, DJ Roy, of geometry even back then. Maybe it wasn't written out, the way we know it today. I'm sure probably it wasn't, but they were fully aware of what's called sacred geometry. And those of you who know a little about sacred geometry, it has to do with pi, like you use to find the area of a circle, or phi or phi, pronounced, it's another way of saying ratios.
Okay.
So pi and phi is called ratios today, and ratios, DJ Roy, are the foundation of all geometry on planet Earth today. So the point here, people, is that this ancient civilization, DJ Roy, they knew about not just the stars that they were able to track and align the calendar with. They knew about geometry. So they're ancient, but they probably were not that ancient. And yes, people, Adam's calendar was not built by aliens. Okay? It was not built by aliens. It was not built by the people of this so-called Atlantis civilization that vanished from the earth without a trace. Nonsense. It wasn't built by anyone other than the people who are currently on the African continent. And how do we know that, DJ Roy? How do we know that, people? You should get out your dumb phones and smartphones right now, because I want you to see that. So, DJ Roy, there are thousands of these calendars all over Africa today. Thousands. Some of them are probably not as old as Adam's calendar, but these calendars are all over Africa. So, and they're tracking the stars. They're tracking monsoon rains. They're tracking the weather systems. So people, please stop saying that these things were built by aliens or by some people, some civilization that existed and now vanished without a trace from the earth. Nonsense. That's what they have written in some history books. That's what they have written up online. That's what that's what they have on social media. It's not
Right.
true, people. So use this knowledge, do your own research, and when you do your own research, DJ, what they're going to find is that they're going to find the truth, that what we're saying here at New Species is the truth. And now they can begin the healing process of nourishing the mental health and the spiritual health. So this is where it begins, DJ Roy. Nourishing the mental and spiritual health with knowledge. Knowledge that you can easily find at your fingertips.
You mentioned something, Austin, and I can kind of understand sometimes when people think it was impossible for Kush and people of color to have built what they built, Austin. Because think about it, they can barely fix the Van Wyck now, Austin. They've been working on the Van Wyck, Austin, the Van Wyck Express with all the technology, Austin, with all the machinery, Austin. They've been working on the Van Wyck since I've been in America, Austin. So people wonder, how do they move these boulders? How do they move these? How do they even shape? What equipment do they use to shape these things, Austin?
Well, there's a lot we don't know, DJ. And 70,000 years later in Kush, there are over 130 pyramids alone in Kush. And 70,000 years later in Kush and in Egypt, between Egypt and Kush, there are over 500 pyramids.
Wow.
We smart humans of today, we still haven't figured out how they did it. We're, all the mathematicians, the engineers, they're theorizing as to what they think. But you know what,
Right.
DJ, to your point, I've been in this country for 40 years myself, and the Van Wyck, yes, totally has been always backed up. Totally true. You know.
Wow.
But we have global warming now that's killing a lot of people with heat and flood worldwide, and we don't have a clue as to where the next flood is going to occur,
Yeah.
so we can move people to safety. We don't have a clue as to where the next heat wave is going to strike. Actually, DJ Roy, we don't even have a clue as to whether it's going to rain any given day or not.
It's
Because
true.
a lot of time they project it's going to rain, it doesn't happen. We
Right.
need these ancient civilizations to help us out.
Yeah.
If they're able to track, DJ Roy, accurately the stars
Yeah.
over 70,000 years ago, DJ Roy, they're able to track the stars in the Orion constellation 70,000 years ago, DJ Roy. Just think about that. And today we can't even figure out when it's going to rain and when it's not going to rain. That should tell people that yes, we have cell phones that with these electrical signals that we use to communicate with, but we still can't save ourselves. And just to give people an idea, DJ, as to where the Orion constellation is, people listen to this. This is where the Orion constellation is. The Orion constellation, DJ, is 1,344 light years away from Earth.
Right.
1,000, DJ, 344 light years away from Earth. There is, DJ, there is 6 trillion miles in 1 light year. 6 trillion miles in 1 light year. And these people, over 70,000 years ago, were able to track the stars. We don't have a lot of knowledge as to how they did it and how they able to create clock and timing devices, but they did it, and it's not in the history books. It should be in the history books. Those kids that are in school today, they need to learn that. They need to learn the genius of all our ancestors, not to attribute all this to aliens and a lost civilization that no longer exists. Nonsense. All right, sir, turn it over to you.
Well, again, let me just make sure they know. Please download the New Species app. Stay connected. Also reminding you that each and every Saturday morning it's a Q&A. Any questions you have, you can join them every Saturday morning on the app and also on the website, which is nuspecies.com. Please get on those starter packages. Affordable and available when you call 888-548-3150. That's 888-548-3150. Call the number, get on the formulas, and download the app, stay connected, and of course, get more history. So, my friend, anything else to add?
Well, DJ, when we, come back on the next Monday School, we are not leaving the great wisdom, knowledge that Adam's Calendar has left behind. We're going to continue on Adam's Calendar. Those of you who want to know more, of course, you should go do your research, go online and look up Adam's Calendar, do your own research, because we're not over, because DJ Roy, in the end, we're going to show the foundation of modern civilizations. We're going to show the foundations of Kush and Egypt and all the other great civilization, where it started and how they got to where they are. That's what we're going to do, sir.
All right. Can't wait, my friend. We'll be back later on this evening. In the meantime, everybody download that New Species app and follow us on Instagram. Download the
IRIJAM app. I'm here. Now, in each light year is 6 trillion years. 6 trillion years in one light year. The Orion constellation is about 1,300 light years away from Earth. Now, let's go up to Naphtali. Naphtali is also aligned, at least when it was built, with the brightest stars in the Orion constellation. Naphtali has megalith as well, which need to be examined more by scientists. But Naphtali, megalith, are aligned, or at least when it was built, with the brightest stars in the Orion constellation, just as Adam's circle or Adam's calendar. Now let's move further north. Egypt. The 3 pyramids at Giza are also aligned with the Orion constellation, or at least the brightest stars in the Orion constellation. Now the 3 pyramids at Giza, Naphtali, Adam's circle, all have the same astronomical concepts in common. They're aligned with the brightest stars in the Orion constellation. The Great Sphinx, which is aligned with the 3 pyramids at Giza, are also aligned toward the constellation of the Orion belt. Why are all of these monuments invented by the Alkebulians or Africans? Why are they so important? They're important, friends, because it shows that civilization not only began over 75,000 years ago, but it shows that the knowledge of the Kushites, or the Kushite Egyptians, and the knowledge that they brought to Kerma, the knowledge that they brought to Napata, was the knowledge they used to construct the holy sacred city of Napata. The holy sacred city of Napata that was destroyed. It was completely razed, completely destroyed. Now, what we don't know is the knowledge that was destroyed there. The knowledge in astronomy, astrology, in earth science, knowledge of physics, knowledge of chemistry, knowledge of architecture, and probably most importantly, knowledge of how the Kushites were able to survive global climate change that is now affecting us today. Imagine if we had that knowledge today. imagine if that knowledge was not destroyed. So this is something for all of us to think about, all humans to think about, and think about in the sense that when we don't all stand together, we stand disintegrated. But let's go back to the Kushites. We're going to talk about Kushite spirituality. We're going to talk about what happened at Adam's calendar, what happens at Naphtali, what happens at the three pyramids at Giza, and then we're going to talk about the holy sacred city of Napata and how we are a weaker people today. All humans are weaker because of its destruction and what was destroyed there. All that knowledge and information that could probably help us today to survive global climate change that we still can't seem to figure out.
Well, I can pull it up on mine. I have it too. If you want to continue packing up.
Oh no. Oh yeah, but thank you. I just have it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Should we put some music behind it now that we have more time?
Hello.
Might be like a nice little opening.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah, I can play around.
something like
Right, you're so used to being over there.
Okay.
Let's just wait 15 seconds.
Yeah. Till that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you stay on between segments?